So I guess it really was for me more, I think in every stage when I think back, it was questioning where I was and questioning the system. Durreen Shahnaz, the founder of IIX, which is also known as Impact Investment Exchange, and IIX Foundation. And our focus is actually inclusive and innovative finance for social good. IIX started almost a decade ago, and then we have the sister entity, IIX Foundation, and we were really the pioneers who said, you know, let's look at finance in a different way and how we bring finance and development together. So it has been a journey in not only just, I guess, creating the ecosystem, but really creating all the products and the platforms that need to be there in order for this ecosystem to flourish.
Did you start with, I'm going to climb that mountain, the big vision, or did you start with a really simple, I know I need to take this next step? What was the way that you got started?
You know, for me, I didn't even know the word entrepreneurship. I just didn't. I didn't know what it meant. For me, growing up, I didn't know any woman who worked. So I guess it really was for me more, I think in every stage when I think back, it was questioning where I was and questioning the system.
You have a vision, a belief set to support that vision, and in a way you just get on.
You know, being an entrepreneur, or when you're actually doing something which I feel like, you know, we're doing, it is even beyond being an entrepreneur, it's creating a whole new system. You have to be driven by greater calling, a bigger calling, you know, and I know an entrepreneur in a second when I meet one. You know, it's almost
what do
like,
you see?
I see someone who obviously is driven, has a lot of passion, and who is actually a problem solver, but very much a practical person. Okay, so you have to have all of these things, you know, the passion and being able to problem solve, etc., but being very practical, you know, knowing how to move forward, how to actually make money and not what is going to pay for it. So I always say that with entrepreneurs, you know, it is one of those things where you don't really even have to wear that badge.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways, you know, when I hear of these things, it's just, I find it very humorous. You know, where entrepreneurs are going and spending 6 months in a boat. I think I read it somewhere, right? It's a joke. You know, if you need so much help, if you actually need people to handhold you and tell you what to do, you're not an entrepreneur, honestly. So it sounds very harsh. And I think, and this is something I always say, that entrepreneurship cannot be taught. And I really believe that.
I think first off, the market's harsh. It has zero emotion.
Yeah.
You're either there or you're not. And you can iterate, you can learn, you can do all those things.
Yeah.
But you can't not participate and still win, right?
Yeah, and also, and I think, you know, it's one of those things where, because for me, I just feel like, again, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it.
Right.
You know,
right.
And you're going to find a way to do it. So I think the entrepreneurs are driven by mostly, you know, why. You know, why is something the way it is? And then really finding the gap and doing it, right?
So what was the gap that you saw that you had to fix, and why did you believe you were the one?
Well, I never thought I was the one. I think it was one of those things where I always say that really the comparison here is Don Quixote. There's no other comparison. And just going out there maybe and fighting with the windmills, which I still feel like I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, what it was again just really a belief that the system needed to change and the system had to work for everyone.
What's the difference between the social stock exchange and the traditional stock exchange that you were saying didn't meet the needs of the market?
And in 800 years, these markets are still dominated by men, still dominated, interestingly, by Western hemisphere and Western men, and also still dominated by basically very myopic way of looking at the world, which is just all we're doing is trying to trade and make the spreads and make money. So I think starting from that frame of reference and say, okay, there's something really wrong with this, and how can we make it different? So for me, it really was that. How can we bring it a more holistic view? How can we actually bring in women and put them front and center? How can we bring in the environment, the disadvantaged communities, etc.?
How are you positioning this? Because in my view, I almost view all entrepreneurship as social entrepreneurship in a sense. And if you build the right organization and you go to scale, my hope is that we start to see food companies that are all organic, fair trade, everything that we want from a social environmental mission, and for them to be mission friendly and maintain that mission, to then go on to the traditional financing system. Mm-hmm. Do you view yourself as separate? Do you view yourself as a step two? How do you see yourself as in that?
Yeah, I think.
Or is that an unfair comparison?
No. I think it's more sort of where we come from. I guess we are very pure in the sense that we do look at the intentionality. You have to have the intention of doing good. So I think and that should be the first and foremost, and which means that you will forego financial return.
Okay.
And
And you can't do that on the normal stock exchange.
But you absolutely cannot. Each time, say when you say Body Shop, when Anita Roderick started it, it was a wonderful company, and she always said her biggest mistake was going public, because again, there was a mission drift. If you look at Etsy, I brought it up, right?
Yeah.
There was this like One Nest, my previous company. They just dropped their B Corp. Okay. Why? Because of the pressure from the market.
Sure.
So I think the thing is, if you have the intention of doing good, and both socially and environmentally, that has to be the part of the DNA, and you have to be willing to give up the financial side. It is really, really that. And I think the reality is the world is not there yet. I would like it to be. Trust me, I would love for it to be. So a lot of the traditional financial institutions who are now coming to the space, sadly, it makes me very sad that their focus and the terminologies that they're using and the way they're talking about it, I wish they would sort of say the fact that they are about making money. Okay, and not sort of hoodwink that, because what's happening in the process is it's actually spoiling the market.
Okay.
So you have people thinking that they can have their cake and eat it too. Mm-hmm. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Right,
so when people go up there and say, people go up there and say, you can make lots of impact and lots of money. Yes, absolutely, we would love that, but we're not there yet.
Okay.
We really are not.
So then, who makes for the better investor or the better partner for you? Is there a gross stereotype that you could say, well, they come from this background?
I would say the best investors are the ones who are mature investors, who actually know the fact that when you're making investments, you're doing it for the long haul, and you're also doing it because you are looking at the planet in a holistic way.
Yeah.
Okay, for me, that's the best investor. It also helps when the investors do have a philanthropic side to them, and it is very tough in Asia, I have to say.
Should it be more philanthropic because that's more mission, or is it okay to be more business?
Well, I think you need to have a combination of both, right? And I think the thing is, there's still a role of philanthropy in this space.
Yeah.
You still need a lot of assistance in terms of working with organizations to get to the investment side.
Yeah.
Right? It's actually a lot of work. You need to be able to put in infrastructures in place so that you can have this system running. You need to be able to, de-risk. You need to have money for that. So all of those things have to come from philanthropy. And in Asia, we just don't have that.
I've seen the genesis. I've heard of some the real ups and some of the real downs within the organization, within the industry itself. How do you get yourself through those tough times? Like, is it just you're committed to that belief? Is it the team? Do you call somebody up and they're your rock for you? Like, how do you find yourself working through some of these challenges some days?
I think it's almost, again, it's going to sound strange, but it's almost like a religious fervor. I don't know how else to say it. And I think for me, it's very interesting. I often think back to my first company, and I was so ready to just sell it, and I was so tired, and I did it. But I think this time around, the reason it's also different is also I went through a lot of personal challenges.
Okay.
So I think, I have 2 daughters, and I think for them, I don't want them ever to think that I gave up.
From entrepreneur to enterprise,
Mm-hmm.
you have to develop a team, an ecosystem, an organization where people belong.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about how you approach team, how you approach development, and in that same vein?
One of the big things with us is because we created a system, and we had to create a whole new way of thinking. We had to not only have people a part of it, but then we also had to have people who understood it, so we had to teach them. But then they also had to understand that this is something that you also have to be sustainable and make money from. And it is very interesting because we do have challenges. We have people who come from, say, pure financial side, and they just don't understand the mission side. They want to, but they have a hard time. But then we will have people who come from development side, and they think it's bad to make money. So we do sit there a lot of times with these very intense challenges. So I think what I say to people is, you belong here. So I always say you almost have to be a misfit. You have to be a misfit, so you belong here because you don't belong anywhere else. It is one of those things where sort of saying, how if I don't fit in, there must be one place I fit in. Maybe it's with the other misfits. So thinking of the team, I think the people who are close to me, and the ones who are here and have been here for a long time, that's what they go with. And it is that be weird, think differently. Why can't we create this structure? Why can't we be doing this? Why can't we? And I think that is so unnerving for a lot of people.
That's where I'm really intrigued about where we are in Asia as Asians, but also as entrepreneurs in Asia,
Mm-hmm.
about the region and the people.
Which is very different. The region is all about conforming.
It's all about conforming.
It's all about conforming.
All these misfits coming up, and the businesses they're creating that are profit or non-profit, the people that are engaging, the community, you're starting to see where the value proposition is becoming much more clear now. And that for me is like really hopeful. I really feel that what we're seeing here is like, it's been 10 years, it's been hard work, but you're starting to see some fruit on the trees.
Right.
So I really appreciate and celebrate everything that you guys have been doing.
Oh, thank you. You're very kind. Thank you very much.
It's not easy. It's very
but
easy
it's
to talk
worth
about
it.
what people are doing and how they should be doing it differently, but at the end of the day, like, the process is a process. So I guess I have 2 last questions.
Yes.
One is, do you have any outside advisors, counselors, people that you look up to, and like when you're trying to figure out what your next shift will be, or you're questioning your current shift, and they can help you through it either directly or just you look at them and go, wow, they went through that, I can get through it.
It's interesting. I waited a long time before creating an advisory board for IIX, because part of me was I didn't want to be told what to do. I just didn't want to hear it, because for me it was so difficult what we were doing, and I knew I didn't have the answers, and I knew no one else did, so I had to figure it out. So it really was, I would say, 3 years ago I created an advisory board. But then what's very interesting is it's a group of very, very smart people. I really respect them, but interestingly it is a group of people where I feel a lot of times I'm just reporting to them what we're doing. Okay, and then they'll say, oh wow, you should think of it that way. Sometimes and of course I'll smile and I'll say, oh, that's really brilliant. Wow, thank you so much. But of course I'm thinking, honestly, I didn't think of that. But interestingly, even within that group, I do find a couple of people that I find myself sort of reaching out to and asking for their opinion quite a bit. One is he was one of my bosses when I was at Hearst. So he's someone I always go back to. He sees something that I don't see.
Okay.
So he helps me go to that next level. But he's not an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
right? So it's sort of, I just need that.
He does that by pumping you up or by challenging you?
He
or?
challenges me.
Okay.
Oh, he never pumps.
Yeah.
Never, no. He just challenges,
Okay.
right? So I think that's one. And the second one is this friend of mine who is actually a very successful Silicon Valley entrepreneur. And we have been now friends for a few years. He just gets it. And so I do go to him a lot in terms of sort of with the hurdles, and then I end up writing a lot to him over the week. This happened, what do you think? This happened, and then he will write to me, and so I feel that once again that one entrepreneur to the other.
Yeah.
Right.
It's safe to be vulnerable.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly it. You almost need people who understands the suffering.
Yeah.
Right. And it is.
They can help you through it.
But what happens a lot now is I have people coming to me to share their suffering, the younger entrepreneurs.
But what would you tell a 20-year-old who comes to you and says, Durreen, I don't know how to get this done.
Right.
What's the advice you would give them? 2 or 3 pieces of how to get from where they are in the struggle to where they need to be.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't know, I just keep on going back to the self first. So I think one of the things whenever I have challenges like this, even before sort of reaching out to anyone, one of the things I actually do a lot is I run a lot.
Okay.
So I think I feel that you need that quiet time to figure out what's going on. I don't listen to music, I just run.
Sure.
And I think, that's one. But I think the second thing is also, it does help at some point to talk to someone. Just even the process of talking about it, sometimes you have the answer yourself. So it is a little bit, you need to whine. So you have to find the people to whine to, the right people. And you will see that, there is something there that you can solve. And and the rest of it, you just have to sort of think that you just have to accept that there's no exit. You're in it. You're in this room, you have to figure out a way to get out, And I think accepting that, I think thinking that there's no way to give up, I think that's what helps you find the solution.
It's very empowering.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you.